The recent reports of UK forces in Ukraine being actively targeted by Russia mark a dangerous and potentially historic turning point in the ongoing conflict. The presence of British military personnel on Ukrainian soil was already a subject of intense debate, but the latest developments have elevated the situation into a new phase of risk and uncertainty. These forces, according to official statements, have been involved primarily in training Ukrainian troops, providing intelligence support, and assisting in the coordination of advanced weapons systems supplied by the West. However, their proximity to active combat zones and Russian strike capabilities has now turned them into high-value targets. The message from Moscow is clear: no foreign military presence in Ukraine will be considered safe, and this stance has been backed by both rhetoric and action. From the broader geopolitical perspective, this escalation has far-reaching implications. NATO's involvement in the war has so far been indirect, carefully balanced to avoid a direct confrontation with Russia. The UK's decision to maintain a military presence inside Ukraine has always been viewed as a calculated risk, a move designed to boost Ukraine's defense without crossing Moscow's so-called red lines. But those red lines appear to have shifted. Russian state media and officials have repeatedly warned that any foreign military personnel found in Ukraine would be treated as combatants. The fact that these warnings are now being acted upon suggests that Moscow feels both confident in its capabilities and determined to deter further Western involvement. This is a moment where the fog of war meets the brink of diplomacy, and the consequences could be severe. The operational realities on the ground show a dangerous chess game being played in real time. Russian targeting methods have become increasingly sophisticated, employing satellite imagery, drones, and electronic warfare to identify high-priority threats. The strikes are not random, they are part of a calculated strategy to undermine Ukraine's combat effectiveness by going after its most valuable assets, those assets now including foreign advisors and trainers. On the UK side, the challenge has been to adapt to this heightened threat environment. British forces are equipped with advanced protective measures, including armored vehicles, encrypted communication systems, and counter-drone technologies. Yet, even the most advanced equipment cannot guarantee safety when operating within range of Russian artillery and missile systems. The human dimension of this situation is just as critical as the military one. For the British personnel stationed in Ukraine, the reality of their mission has now changed. What began as a support and training role has shifted into something more dangerous and unpredictable. They must remain constantly mobile, changing locations frequently to avoid detection, and coordinating with Ukrainian forces who themselves are under relentless pressure. For the Ukrainian soldiers being trained, the presence of British instructors has been a morale boost and a practical advantage, giving them access to NATO standard tactics and technologies. Losing that support, or having it reduced due to safety concerns, could have a significant impact on their ability to resist Russian advances. On the Russian side, the decision to target UK forces is a deliberate demonstration of power and resolve. It sends a message not just to London, but to every NATO capital: involvement in Ukraine comes with real and escalating risks. This kind of targeting is designed to create political pressure back home, forcing governments to reconsider the extent of their commitments. It is also part of a broader psychological strategy, one that aims to erode the confidence of both Ukraine and its allies. If NATO personnel are seen as vulnerable, the perception of NATO's protective shield begins to weaken, and that in itself can shift the momentum of the war. The strategic balance in this conflict is extremely fragile. The UK's military support has been a crucial element in Ukraine's ability to defend itself, particularly in training soldiers to operate complex Western weapons systems. Removing or reducing that support would be a significant win for Russia. At the same time, escalating the targeting of foreign personnel risks provoking a stronger NATO response. This is the dangerous tightrope both sides are walking. One miscalculation, one mistaken identity, or one tragic casualty could set off a chain reaction that spirals beyond the original intent. Financially, the cost of maintaining UK forces in Ukraine is substantial. Beyond the expense of advanced equipment and operational logistics, there is now the added cost of heightened security measures, emergency evacuation plans, and rapid deployment of reinforcements if needed. Politically, the cost could be even higher. The UK government will face increasing scrutiny from opposition parties, the media, and the public about whether the mission justifies the risk. The possibility of British casualties on Ukrainian soil could ignite a heated national debate about the country's role in the war. The civilian population in the affected areas is another layer to this crisis. While UK forces are careful to operate in coordination with Ukrainian military units and away from civilian centers when possible, the reality of modern warfare is that precision strikes can still cause unintended damage. Each attack risks adding to the humanitarian toll, which is already staggering after months of relentless fighting. For civilians, the knowledge that foreign military personnel are nearby can be a double-edged sword, providing a sense of protection but also making them potential collateral in the eyes of Russian targeting algorithms. From a purely military standpoint, the UK forces bring unique advantages to Ukraine's defense. Their experience in integrating intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance data into battlefield operations has improved the efficiency of Ukrainian strikes. They have also been instrumental in training drone operators, artillery crews, and special operations units. This expertise has made a measurable difference in Ukraine's ability to hold ground and inflict damage on Russian positions. But these same advantages make them a priority target for Russia, which is determined to neutralize any external edge Ukraine possesses. As events continue to unfold, the situation remains highly fluid. Both sides are likely to test each other's limits in the coming weeks, probing for weaknesses and opportunities. Diplomatic efforts will run parallel to military operations, with behind-the-scenes negotiations aimed at preventing the conflict from expanding into a direct NATO-Russia confrontation. For now, the targeting of UK forces stands as one of the most significant escalations of the war. It is a reminder that in a conflict of this scale and complexity, the line between indirect involvement and direct confrontation can blur very quickly. The future trajectory of the war may hinge on how this latest development is handled. If the UK decides to pull back its forces, it could be seen as a concession to Russian pressure, potentially encouraging further aggression. If it chooses to reinforce its presence, the risk of direct clashes increases. Either path carries profound risks and will require careful calculation, clear communication with allies, and, perhaps most importantly, a realistic assessment of what can be achieved without crossing into an all-out NATO-Russia war. The reality is that this is not just a battlefield issue but a strategic and political one with global ramifications. The eyes of the world are now fixed on how London, Moscow, and Kiev navigate this new phase. Every move will be watched, analyzed, and interpreted through the lens of a conflict that has already reshaped the global security landscape. The targeting of UK forces is more than a tactical strike, it is a signal that the war is entering a more dangerous and unpredictable stage, one in which the margin for error is razor thin and the stakes are nothing less than the stability of Europe itself.